Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of 12 FPS Toonkind at EGAD headquarters. Or Toonkind at 12 FPS rather. I am your host, Carmichael, also known as Mikey. If you know me, it's nice to see you again. If you don't, it's nice to meet you. And today we have a solo FPS. If I happen to sound hoarse or the quality of my microphone has changed, it is because I have gotten a new microphone for my upcoming birthday. And from what I've been told, it is better than the one I had before, which was just attached to my headphones. Today's solo FPS may have some hoarseness or some sinus difficulty because allergies have been very mean. I hope we can disregard those and have a good time. The trigger warnings for this FPS are as follows. Discussions of mass memory loss, reprogramming, Toon unreality, deals with the devil, brief discussions of faith in Toonkind, glitching, family drama, mentions of past mind control, and so on. If you are sensitive to any of these, then you have been warned. You may choose to listen further ahead with caution or to avoid this FPS. If you choose to avoid this FPS, all you would miss is the introduction of an NPC. Aside from that, you should be fine. If you are choosing to continue listening ahead, this is the solo FPS, Bad Moon Rising. For our story to make sense, we need to leave the treehouse for a little bit. And we find a lovely Toon in a spacesuit. Space nomad. Currently relaxing while running through some data with their new co-program, as it were. Haze, also known as Pluto. This program was picked up by Space Nomad from the Goldwyn Vault after some careful negotiation and a very thorough removal of some Rust Eater parasites. If you don't know what Rust Eaters are, look them up, unless you're sensitive to bugs. They're kind of cute, but Haze is just running through some of Space Nomad's data, minding its own business. Haze/Pluto, for the information of the audience, goes by its pronouns. If I use any other pronouns, it is because I have slipped up. But those are canonically the AI's pronouns. As it's working through, we enter the suit. Enter past the withered corpse of N that has yet to be buried. Through binary and somewhat decayed, but still withstanding molecular structure. Through a particularly stubborn bit of coding, and we enter Haze Entertainment Network. This is where most of the shows that Haze ran around before have been stored for prosperity's sake until Haze has a new body they can project from. In the meantime, the episodes are either contained there or broadcast from poor Space Nomad. God bless the poor space cadet. Poor guy. We skip past a number of shows, from a lovingly hand-painted, simple-looking show surrounding mysteries of the arcane and the criminal, to a show about four elderly-looking ghoulish women discussing their days. Past a show about soldiers fighting a war and talking amongst themselves as they help heal victims of war. And on to a cartoon program. Specifically, an animated program. An anime, if you would. With dreamy pastel colors, light line works, stunning lighting on the background and on the characters. It's got that strong 80s sense. It's nostalgic and it's very clearly inspired by Sailor Moon. The colors would normally be dreamier, in light pinks and purples or blues and greens, but the environment has changed. The city is bathed in stark red and dark purple tones. The night's colors are darker than they should be, and all the more uninviting. And people hurry about their business or stay in their homes. Armed guards patrol the streets, their visors only reflecting the lights of the city and neon of signs. Up above, a floating palace sits, and above that, a deep red crystal maintaining a blood-red moon. An eclipse now stands persistent over the town of Oikot. We focus our attention to the Shizukanakawa district of this city. It's along the river and is home to a number of shops and bars and restaurants. It's an enviable place for transport and for easy access to food and groceries. Someone hurries their way home in this somewhat iridescent-looking jacket. A hood is pulled up over mostly over their ears and face, but the ears still persist and can be seen within the hood drooping downward, a mouse's ears. This tall, elegant figure hurries along the shadows and ducks into a nearby alley when another pair of armed guards patrol by. We are going to roll this character stealth. Your stealth is a +2, but you do get advantage for a reason. At least here you do. So 2d20 +2. That's a good thing you had advantage. A 4 wouldn't have made it. On an 18, this figure, hiding their face from view, ducks into the alley and stays in the shadow, pressed against a worn-out wall as the guards pass by. The guards don't even turn an eye toward the alley. The way they move and turn, it's difficult to tell whether there are people in those suits of armor, or if maybe there are other kinds of creatures, beasts or robots. It's difficult to tell, and this character doesn't quite care for it. Only when the stomping of their boots finally passes and disappears does the figure leave the alleyway and continue. Heading down a street with trees that traditionally would be in bloom at this time of year. However, the colorful pinks and purples that would normally decorate their flowers are overshadowed by the heavy tones of red and purple that the town now has. The petals that fall from the trees don't quite look as pleasant, but the eerie calmness persists. This figure eventually returns to their home and closes and locks the door behind them. They look at their house. It's a very traditional home. It has some of the basic amenities. It has a television, it has a radio, it has all that you need in a kitchen. And it's a 2-floor building. There's the ground floor, and then the next floor. The decor is rather basic, with only a vase or 2 of flowers. The photos on the wall are out of focus, and the lighting that plays over the scene casts shadows over any of the faces. The figure leans against the door after it locks and pulls back the hood and down, showing a tall mouse woman of green fur and a greenish yellow skin tone. Or you could call it a secondary fur color if you don't really want to identify it as skin. It's vague enough it could be identified either way. Her large ears are perpetually drooped downward, looking both like mouse ears and also like two downward buns. Her hair is also braided back in a way that it is kept against her scalp. Her keen green eyes close as she takes a deep breath and sighs. She then heads to the kitchen to make herself dinner. It's not an extravagant dinner. She makes herself some ramen, a cup of tea. She then makes a second bowl of ramen and a second cup of tea. And as she sets these things up at her table, she slows. Of course, everyone else in the house has gone to bed. There's no one else awake for her to be making a bowl of ramen for. But as she looks over the scene, her gaze pans over to one of the chairs in particular, and lingers there. Her gaze grows forlorn as the scene briefly flashes back to a much more familiar face. Mina, the previous protagonist, and one that the party has at least in passing met, is knocked back onto the roof of the castle from a particular blast of violent paint thinner. She skids on her heels and then stops, looking worried. It briefly flashes to times when her face didn't look so concerned and didn't possibly look bloodstained, to points of smiling or looks of loneliness, and flashes back. Mina's not there to sit in that chair anymore. Someone else does. But she still stares at it in silence, then sits in her own chair and eats her dinner in quiet. It's easier to imagine the scene as it was. A family full of countless younger mouse children, their aging mouse parents, beard and glasses or widely pulled back hair, the apron. Everyone seated at this big table, smiling to each other. Mina was the source of most of the laughter. But it's quiet now. She doesn't quite finish her dinner. The eating eventually slows and stops. And as she thinks to herself, the thoughts are illustrated in an echoey manner, as is traditional to anime projecting one's thoughts. I can't keep doing this. I just can't. She's been gone for months now, but it doesn't even feel like the time has passed. The only reason I know that is because I've been keeping track on the calendar. And even that's starting to look the same. She sighs and then leans forward, resting her elbows on the table as she puts her face and her snout in her hands.
Hi, honey. Hi, Sassy. I'm busy. Yeah? Yeah? You want pets? I can give you some pets. Yeah? Okay. No nippies. Pets. Ah. Well, Yippee girl.
This has been Sassy Loving Hours. Let me take a sip of water. She just takes a deep breath and sighs.
They keep expecting me to help. They expect me to just know what to do. And I know why. Because I knew what to do when I was working with her. But I already tried her plan,
and the scene briefly flashes to when Mina was unceremoniously removed and freed from the program. She was in the middle of trying to head up to the sky and was caught mid-flight. As the eclipse continues, Mona, as this NPC is called, watches her sister vanish and, seeing the eclipse progressing, runs along the castle roof and up the tower and up the crystal, trying her best to make the climb. She manages to summon for herself a pair of bat wings by the means of her imitation painting power, and tries to fly up and commit to the plan that Mina had, which was trying to paint the wishing star in the sky. And she does. She clasps her hands together, saying the same familiar words. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. Wish I may, I wish I might. Let me have this wish tonight. And nothing happens. The star doesn't change or glow bright or activate. Nothing is summoned. No face is visible. Mona tries to do just what Mina wanted to do, because Mina wanted everyone to get out. She didn't just want to leave anyone behind. And nothing happened. That multi-pointed star never shined for her. And as the eclipse reached its climax and the crystal reached full charge, the city was swept into a terrible darkness. And Mona fell with no care for her landing. What am I supposed to do? I don't have anyone else's help. I sure can't ask them to assist. All they care about is controlling the city. I can't ask the Empress. She might know what's going on. And if the wishing star won't help like Mina thought it would, what am I supposed to do instead? My brush isn't real. I know it's not. And they're just expecting me to handle it like it is. Maybe I just should have wished that I could have gone away instead.
maybe then it would have worked.
Oh. And she just rubs her face. The scene dwells in the silence, but eventually focuses on someone coming down the stairs. A pair of gloved hands and a much older-looking rodent face peer down from the dark. Mona? And she perks up.
Oh, Father. I'm sorry, I'm home late again.
Oh, no, it's all right, it's all right. And he shuffles on over and sets a hand on her shoulder. I understand you're working pretty late. What matters is you got home safe. I don't think you're working up enough of an appetite for 2 bowls, though. And she looks up to him, pauses, and looks back to the bowls.
Oh, the second bowl's not for me. It's for
Mina, right? For a moment, Mona actually looks a little hopeful as she nods.
Yeah, Mina. I guess I'm so used to getting home at the same time she does. And
I understand. But clearly she's not home. And I don't think your imaginary friend would want that getting cold, do you? And the hopefulness leaves her face as quickly as it came, and the little highlights in her eyes flicker out. Because of course, she's the only one who's maintained any memory of Mina as an actual person. Of course, she wasn't affected when the series was reprogrammed to just forget her. Of course.
yeah, probably not.
Are you sure? I know you've probably already had dinner. Oh, I don't mind at all. And you've seemed pretty lonely these past months. I think I can adjust my schedule to stay up with you and eat an extra dinner. Doesn't hurt me. And as he says that, he shuffles over to her chair and sits in it, and he doesn't quite see the way that Mona's expression sours at that. Because as she looks at him, a few brief images flash through her mind. Images of Mina heading out to a rooftop and her father stopping her. And Mona watching as her father talks to her in a way that an actual father should. To just act like she doesn't exist now. And she just looks back at her bowl and pushes herself to finish it. She should feel comforted. She should feel warm and happy that she still has the rest of her family. After all, they were her family. They were never Mina's. Surely not. And yet, she finishes it in quiet, gets herself cleaned up and changed, and as her father heads back to bed, she bows her head. Good night, Father. Good night, Mona. And he nods, and he heads to bed himself. She heads back to her room and just sits on a little cushion on the floor. Doesn't even go to bed. She just looks at her futon in quiet thought. Then back up to that ominous red moon
Well, I can't figure anything out if I don't give myself rest. And yet, she's hesitant to even go to the futon. Her gaze just lingers outside. She even looks to where she tried painting the wishing star, and it's not even there anymore. Hayes must have erased it when he reset everything. When it reset everything. And then she gets a thought. Just a passing one. And it doesn't flash back to Mina. It flashes back to Temperance. Or as she would later be called, Little Belle. To a previous conversation that Mona had when Temperance was disguised as a little magical girl cat companion, just with little wings and a little funny shaped paintbrush tail. You know, I don't think Mina would want to see you so upset. Yeah, what makes you say that, little Tempo? I'm fine. No, you're not. Don't lie to me, I'm not stupid. I'm not lying, I'm fine. If you were fine, you wouldn't be looking at her paintbrush so much, would you? You've noticed. Oh, I notice a lot of things. And as Mona sleeps, she just thinks on that one conversation. And one of the things I notice is you're unhappy here. What makes you say that? Oh, it's the looks you give everybody else compared to Mina. And you seem pretty tired of the fact we just keep running into bad guys to just paint over until they surrender. Bored? What would make you say I'm bored? I'm just tired of them trying to cause trouble, that's all. Uh-huh. Well, you know, you wouldn't run into nearly as many of them on the outside. Right, on the outside that you and Mina keep talking about. Look, I don't know what you're getting through her head. There is no outside. I mean, there is. You know that's where she came from. And it's where I came from, too. You just don't like talking about it because you're afraid that Hayes is watching. But he's not. I can tell. Just admit you're curious about it, and I can help. Help? What exactly would you have to help about? You're a cat with a paintbrush tail. I don't imagine you doing a lot. Well, I might not be just a cat. And as the glow in the little companion's eyes changes, the morning comes. It's a quiet morning. Everyone goes about their work. Those now indentured to the service of the Empress of Evil go about their business. And it's just building more altars and monuments dedicated to her great wickedness, looking to purge any reference to any moon-based heroes in the city or out of it. Mona herself returns to the floating palace, where she now works as daughter of the Empress of Evil. She mostly hears a bunch of former villains for the show talking to themselves.
Servants go about their day-to-day, whether they're mortal creatures or absolutely not mortal creatures. It's unclear in the monster design whether it's meant to be extraterrestrial or infernal in nature, but Mona doesn't necessarily focus on that. Instead, she focuses on her attention being broken by the Empress, who turns to her, her shape no longer so starkly silhouetted and hidden from view. The truth is, she also looks like a mouse woman. An incredibly beautiful and intimidating looking one, with tightly tied up hair, an armored dress, which clearly is built more for functionality than fashion, but still looks stunning in that 80s style. Which, of course, has to include the shoulder pads. Because. And those sharp, keenly aware eyes, looking right through her person. You're distracted again. What? No, I'm not. I'm paying attention. Really? And she crosses her hands together. So, tell me what your advisor was just telling you. My what? Oh, advisor, right. And she glances over, and her advisor is another armored individual, though his armor is sleeker and seems to more represent a serpent. His face is hidden from view. And I'm going to roll deception to see if she can call the bluff. So your deception is a +7. I forget your deception is jacked. Of course, I shouldn't say that. That's going to jinx it. Okay, so... $14 + 7 is a 21. He was complaining about the insurrectionists in the city. The folks that aren't taking our leadership quite as well as they should. And are missing the previous paper bearer. I was just tuning out the complaints because I've heard them before. He's complained dozens of times by now. It's a little annoying. I suppose that would make sense. And the Empress looks up to the advisor, who looks, frankly, insulted at that. And I'm going to roll her an insight check. She doesn't pass. 15 does not break 21. I apologize. I know I shouldn't doubt you. It's just... you've seemed very disconnected as of late. I hope you're not dissatisfied with the treatment we've been giving your adoptive family. Oh, no, not at all, Your Majesty, not at all. It's... the fact that they're safe and happy is what matters to me. I couldn't care about anybody else. I'm just thinking about other things is all. Other things. Like your former sister? No, not her. She's gone. I've learned to accept that. Still, even if you can tune out your advisor's insults and complaints, we still need you to figure out a way to get rid of those insurrectionists. If they can rile the city up any further, they may stand a chance of disrupting the crystal's control, and we can't have that. I know. She just bows her head apologetically. I know. Still, I doubt they can get through our defenses too much. I mean, they're just Earthlings. What can they do against us? You'd be surprised what an ordinary Earth creature could do. I mean, I doubt it. I've been living with them for several years, and they haven't surprised me yet. Hell, the only one that surprised me was Mina, and she wasn't even an Earth creature. Right.
But I am curious about something, actually.
And she just lifts a hand to get the Empress's attention, who just turns her head fully. It is a matter of study I've been looking into. But I know we have an expansive library on many different levels of dark, forbidden knowledge that's been locked away from most of the cosmos. You know, our usual academics. Our usual. But I was wondering, did we have any books on infernal magic, perhaps? Both the advisor and the queen and the Empress just sort of turn to her fully. The Empress's ears, which are normally sort of pinned back in casual dismissal or condescension, kind of perk up a little. Mona's caught her interest, and she doesn't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Infernal magic, you say?
Yeah.
I mean, I know our magic is usually of the celestial variety, usually working with dark matter, but infernal magic is what they fear on this world. And I'm thinking that might amplify my power a bit if I learn more about it. And from what I've seen from my time with Mina, I'm particularly good when it comes to cards and fire. That much is true. The false paintbrush doesn't seem to be doing you much good. Your Highness, she has enough access to the library as is. It's my personal opinion. I don't believe she needs... Your opinion doesn't matter in terms of her education. Sit down and shut up. Yes, Your Highness. And the armored snake individual politely just steps back and resumes his silence. And you have aced every other subject we've thrown your way. I imagine you'd get bored if we locked you out of every part of the library. Oh, you know it. Very well. Archon, I believe you can unlock access to the forbidden sector for her. We'll see how far she can satiate her curiosity, and if any harm comes to her, she'll have learned her lesson. If any books catch your attention in particular and you need the assistance, come to me. I know much on many dark arts, and I've had my experience with the infernal creatures of this world. I could help. And I'm going to roll persuasion. Mona hesitates on that and is going to roll an insight check, but nod. So insight is, oh, you have a 0. God bless, I forgot. Yeah, no. She nods. Right. If I need any help on anything, I'll come to you. I mean, you know better than most, and not stupid enough to go nose first into something without thinking of the consequences. That was more Mina's thing. Oh, I know. It got her surprisingly far. But she's not here, is she? No, she's not. No, she's not. The rest of the meeting goes by, and Mona pays scant attention to the advisor and to what's being discussed, nods and responds when requested, but aside from that, doesn't really think much else on it. Eventually, when she gets access to the library's forbidden sector, which she watches as this great lock which appears to mix the arcane runes with the science of space-age technology, as the 80s were also obsessed with, just is unlocked with this complicated-looking key that barely even looks like a key. She sees how dark and foreboding the forbidden sector is. Hardly any of the light from the windows catches, and the shadows to this area are more stark than most. Any colors that are visible here are darker than they would be anywhere else, except in the light of the windows, which is, again, scarce. It's sort of stylish, and she kind of likes the atmosphere. As she goes looking through, I am going to roll her an investigation check. 2, actually. She gets a +2 to. An 11 and a 16. And she actually does manage to pick up a few books on contact with and magic associated with the infernal. Which is, of course, hell's magic. And there's a sort of montage of scenes where, either at the palace or at home, she spends her time poring over these tomes. And whenever one of her parents would peer in, or one of her siblings would check in and see if she's okay, she'd conveniently cover the cover so it's not visible and it just looks like she's just studying. You know, normal things. She does like to read. In between studies, her gaze continues to drift to the window to where she'd previously painted the wishing star, where it no longer was. Her expression hardens, and she once again throws back to another conversation with Temperance, the little not-quite-so-cat companion. I don't think she's gonna help. And Mona in the flashback turns to her, eyebrow lifted. You don't? What gives you that idea?
Well, aside from the fact that we're trapped in a box, her help is selective. She likes sending out wishes to her favorites, but when it comes to the truly desperate, she just leaves them in the dust. It's usually how I pick them up. Right, 'cause you're not some magical cat companion. 'Cause I'm not some magical cat companion. You'd be correct. In all seriousness, though, she's never granted any of my wishes, so I doubt she's gonna do anything for poor Mina, much as I think she should.
You want the wishing star to help her?
Oh, I wish she would. I sure wish she would.
But considering how hard Mina's been hoping on that plan of hers, I think if the wishing star was gonna help, she would have by now. And she hasn't, so I think just sticking to the backup plan of stopping that crystal and getting to the source of the programming would be the best bet.
But that's just me.
And as she says that, she does a long stretch, letting out these golden claws before they go back into her little anime paws. You keep talking about the program.
Yeah, the program, the thing responsible for making this funny little show of yours. It's all part of a program. Of course, you didn't believe me before when I explained it, so, well, I didn't.
But I would like to hear your explanation.
Because, I mean, we get people talking about how the Earth is flat. We get people talking about how it sits on the back of a turtle.
I mean, we get some people who don't think the moon is real, so I think hearing somebody talk about how it's some simulation or something would be fun. I don't know. And she shrugs. Little Temperance in her little shape just looks up, keenly interested.
Hi, honey. Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. Baby girl. Yeah. Kissa kissa? Oh, I love you too. Sneaky child. I mean, I can try. I can't guarantee too many good results, though. But I think you can handle it.
See,
Your world was made by an advanced computer program, which was probably in better condition before we found it. I don't know whether it genuinely made you to entertain, or just to entertain itself and occupy its time, but Jenny talks like she's been the only dweller in the vault for a hot minute, so she was probably the program's only companion. Jenny? Vault? Yeah. This program is part of a bigger program that sits in the bottom of a vault, which is an underground facility. Probably made with a previous erasure? I don't know. I didn't really care to ask. Didn't really look into the history. I was just interested in a wish. And look what happened. Now, there's some of you which are part of the program, which was made by the AI. And then there's folks like Mina, who are Toon kind. Toon kind? Yeah, Toons. Like, you should be. And she comes from an outside Toon world, known as Einquill. It's a place where Toons like you are supposed to live and play and be happy, succumb to temptations, eventually damn yourselves, But it's the place where you guys usually will be happiest. And it's how an actual Toon world works, unlike this program's idea of an ideal paradise. It's nice. And I think you'd like it. Is it any different from ours? Well, yes and no. For starters, even though you might find some people with a weird kind of style to them, most people's faces look like they belong on their face. And they don't look like they were made by a deteriorating AI, if you get what I mean. And I mean, from what I was told by you, this place didn't look quite as pastel and pretty and cute and, just so flowery and frilly and spacey. And let's bounce here. I think by your description, it would have looked more like a town I'm familiar with, or at least have vaguely heard of, in passing. But beside the point, out there isn't too much different from in here, aside from the fact that most folks look a little more fitting to the environment, and your entire world can't just be reset on a dime by some computer with a god complex. I mean, it does get reset sometimes, don't get me wrong, but it hasn't done that in a while, and I think according to... there was somebody, like some feathery, blustery bastard, I don't remember. According to somebody, they said it's been taking longer and longer, so it might be the point where it just stops resetting at some point. But I do think it's a little better over there than it is over here. Mostly on the fact that your head can't be erased with a single press of a button or a single line of code. Might just be me. And as Mona reads and thinks in that conversation, she flashes back to how the rest of the family was just so keen on helping Mina with her plan, so keen on talking Mona down from attacking her to the point that her father actually climbed the castle roof to try and stop her. It was the last point that she recalled him acting like her father. And now she's the only one that remembers he even had that conversation. He doesn't remember being on the roof. He doesn't remember talking to Mina or Mona. Or the eclipse. It's always been Mona. And as she looks through the information, she goes over the steps necessary for what she'd like to try in her head. The spell would usually call for blood, but I don't have an easy way of getting that. Blood or some form of vital bodily fluid to be used for drawing out the summoning circle. Find a keen place when the moon is full or new in the sky. Preferably an open space, but crossroads may be preferred. And there's plenty of crossing roads and boulevards in the town of Oikot, but there's not really a place that fits what she wants. Granted, there's a great big open space on the castle roof, but even while that has the best view of the full moon eclipse in the sky, it's not necessarily at a crossroad. And of course, in between these, she has to deal with rebels and insurrectionists, people that she used to consider friends, now trying to fight back against the system. And while she easily shoots them down with spells conjured from the paintbrush, there are times when she glances over to it, even as the heroes stand fallen, that occasionally she doesn't fully see it as a paintbrush. She can catch glimpses, just brief little flickers of code, color, and consistencies. Maybe the line art breaks sometimes. Little art glitches. It's, in a way, kind of... I hate making the comparison, but Spider-Verse, I think, did it best. Well, both movies did it best, but the first one especially had it down pat, where it's just this flicker, and then it's back to normal. And she's the only one that sees it and looks contemplative. But she does know a place open under the moon that might be considered a crossroad. It's just not in the city. So eventually she approaches her mother, the Empress of Evil, and asks, "Mother, may I have a word?" "Hmm? Oh, yes, of course. What is it, child?" "Well, I believe I may have tracked down more of the insurrectionists." "Really?" "They've decided the city's no longer safe for them, so they're hiding in the countryside. But I figured out where. It used to be a place where," and she almost says where Mina and I, but catches herself, "where I used to play as a child. If I would have your permission to track them down out there, I could bring you back something worthwhile." And I'm going to roll her deception, and I'm going to roll the Empress insight. That's a 9, buddy. Oh. Yeah? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still, I'm doing my computer thing, you know. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna be talking. Yeah. I see. Do you have any idea why they've moved to the countryside and considered the city unsafe? They haven't had any issues with trying to attack before. I mean, you've been heightening the patrols with the guards. And of course, there are those hounds you released. They had a particular problem with that when I caught them last. And she smiles, but the Empress doesn't change her expression, that calm, sinister smile remaining on her face. She's beautiful. And all the more terrifying for it. I see. Well, if you're asking permission, would you want to take a selection of guards out there? Oh, I don't believe I'll need them, actually. Hounds, then? I just took them out on the walk. I don't think I'll need them either. So you want to follow the little rebels out to the woods alone? I think that would be the stealthiest option. You think? Mona, my darling, I told you if you needed help with something, you can just tell me. Mona shrinks a little,
a few anime sweat drops appearing on her cheeks.
I know. Well, you say you know, but you're not asking me for help. And clearly you need it. Well,
be honest with me, child. What is it you want in the woods? There is a great moment of silence. The light from this tall stained glass window above the Empress's throne cascades down, painting a number of colors. It is, of course, a stained glass window depicting Mona bringing down Mina and destroying her paintbrush. Even though that's not what happened, and Mina knows it. She looks up to it, and the image dwells on that, drifting down from Mona, standing tall, triumphant, and menacing looking, down to Mina, falling from the rooftop. Mona takes a deep breath. Well, you know, I've been doing some research. And I was thinking, I wanted to try summoning. But I don't want to try the summoning here at the palace, because it needs a big open space with a crossroad for it. And the palace isn't very open. It has a really oppressive and smothering atmosphere in spite of how big it is, and I don't think that would fit the spell. So I think going back to the place where I used to live would have the best chances. And who is it you're hoping to summon, exactly? And I'm going to roll a perception check for someone else. An 11. I'm going to roll 2d20 plus, what's your stealth? 2. For the both of them. His attention is focused on another program, so it doesn't notice when Mona says, I was hoping to try and summon the devil, Mother. And the atmosphere subtly but dramatically changes. The devil, you say? The devil himself? Yes, Mother. I was hoping for privacy, and I don't get a lot of it here. I have a place in mind, but I didn't know if you would let me go out that far without an escort, and I didn't want anybody to be there. I'm also missing one of the crucial ingredients for it, which is blood or some vital fluid from someone else. So you were hoping to head out alone, without your vital component, possibly hoping to find it on the way, then? You say it like that, and it does sound a little foolish, dear. It does. Well, if it's blood you need, blood we have in abundance. Come with me. What? Come with me. You need blood for your ritual, do you not? And I don't think anyone's looking, so I don't think anyone will notice if one of our prisoners disappears. And she, of course, looks a little shocked at that. If I could please, for the love of God, pull up my soundboard. You mean you're all right with it? Of course I'm all right with it, darling. I danced with the devil at our celebration ball. If you just wanted to pay him a visit or have a speaking with him, have a little audience, you could have just said so. I mean, I wanted to, but But what? And And this is said as the Empress has stood up, and was going to lead her along, but stops and turns toward her.
But I don't think I would have been able to say it. For reasons outside of my control.
Outside of your control. Mona, you are the daughter of the Empress of all evil, ruler of this new earth, and threat to all the cosmos. If there's any power that would think to suppress you, it would have to go through me first. And I don't think it could. Even if I were to say it was a power rivaling yours? There are none that do.
And if there was?
The atmosphere grows thicker between them. Then there wouldn't be for much longer. You know better than most, I do not tolerate rivalry. Rivalry gives rise to competition, which gives rise to weakness in the kingdom. Any time I sense a threat, I have it eliminated before it can become a problem, no matter how young or how innocent it is.
I know, Mother.
And I'm going to roll something for her. And wisdom save is +3.
It's nothing. I'm paranoid, I'm sorry.
Not to worry, darling. We'll just get you that blood, and you can have your little conversation in the woods, all right? All right. Now, how much do you need?
Well, it says about a pint.
A pint? Oh, that's a lot for someone to lose. And let's look at some of the less important prisoners. All right. And she follows along, her much taller and more imposing mother. As they head down a long, cavernous hallway, they pass by many cells housing many innocent civilians, what appear to be many crime fighters, insurrectionists. A pint of blood was what you said, was it not?
It was.
All right. Well, we're going to interrogate them next, so we would rather they were conscious for that. That one could make useful cannon fodder. That one would be a good frontliner. Not that one, that one. And she's just casually pointing along the different cells as prisoners look up and worry and then look back down. Mona looks them over. And for a brief moment, recalls how little Temperance had apparently met Mina, trapped in one of the Empress's cells, curled up and stubborn. A pang of sympathy is shown, but it is not one the Empress sees. And I need to make Mona a wisdom saving throw. 20 plus 3. $16. Beats it. All right. Here we are. The least important prisoners. Also known as Puppy Chow. And she pulls up a ring of keys and hands it over. Mona takes it and unlocks the door. you can go ahead and have your selection of the stock. We'll have whoever you choose drained and the blood packaged for you within the hour. And she looks, and it's teenagers. A cluster of students from one of the schools that she used to go to. She can recognize them by their little school uniforms, the pleated skirts and the ties, shorts and slacks. Some of the students aren't even teenagers. She swallows heavily, but resisting the programming, recalls that these tunes aren't actually tunes. Like her, they were made by the program. They are lines of code, and they react as Hayes directs them or programs them to. She knows that because she's defected from hers, at least from what she was told by Temperance. She doesn't see that in them. Even though it's terrible to think about, she pushes any thought of sympathy from her mind, because, of course, these were programs made to satisfy Mina when she was imprisoned, and now they just serve the purpose of existing here. Faces to fill the background. She takes a deep breath and points out one of the older teens. He sits up straight, and a younger teenage boy that was leaning close to him just sort of positions himself in front. No, you can't, please. I'm sorry. He just looks like he'd have the most out of the bunch. And what's to show about that, huh? We all look pretty much the same weight. We'll all have the same amount of blood. You don't have to take his.
Oh, honey, please. Papa is busy.
Papa's busy.
Right? Oh, I know. Sorry.
Let me give you a little pet. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. Silly girl. Yeah. This has been Sassy Affection Hours. This is also going to be a brief hydration break as we have officially reached the hour marker. And I need to hydrate because allergies are killing my throat. So, I'll be back within a few minutes. As per the ad read, this FPS was brought to you by Opportunity Labs, giving you the opportunity to go farther than anyone else. Positions are open now as per payment at your nearest Opportunity Labs installment. Getting everything muted. There we go. Should be good to go. Alright. And we're back. Remember to hydrate, otherwise you'll dehydrate. So Mona chooses which of the students to draw blood from. And while the other students try to fight back and complain, they're also chained up by scientific means, so it's not that they can exactly do much. But Mona, for the large part, tunes out their complaints. The prisoner is withdrawn. Mona closes their eyes, and the scene mercifully skips over the actual draining process. As Mona...
Yes, Daisy, do you want to get in the bed? Daisy? Daisy? It's open up here. Come on.
We have exchanged Sassy for Daisy. Sassy has left the room. Daisy, on the other hand, is, going under the covers, I guess. Okay, yeah. Wherever she's comfy. And I'm going to roll another perception check. But I need to roll the Oh, it doesn't get modifiers at the moment. That's right, because it's sitting in Space Nomad's body. So just a perception check for a funny little friend. That's a 12. Okay. And how is the stealth on them? So +2, +2, so... Okay. I'm gonna make the Empress a wisdom save with advantage, then. You blissful bastard. Okay. Fair. Fair. Mona waits, and as the time easily passes, eventually the Empress comes back with a small, airtight container. Because of the lighting around the rest of the city, it only lightens up slightly in the palace to just show the fact that it is at least a container of dark red fluid. So this very much is just blood. But safely contained blood. That might not be obvious at a glance. All right, 1 pint of blood, freshly drawn, as requested. Thank you, Mother. And she takes it. Now, if I might be so bold as to ask, what is it you wish to summon the devil for? But... Oh! Well, I would like his advice and his words of wisdom, of course. As I've been struggling with all these rebellious types rising up around the city, I felt, admittedly, rather stressed. Stressed? Well, I may have taken Mina out, but admittedly, I haven't been against so many people before. We used to be very beloved to the city, if you remember. Ah, I do. No doubt they almost feel betrayed by your change in alliance. I would have hoped they would have gotten over it by now, at least with a little persuasion. But I suppose that these Earthlings can cling to their grudges more tightly than one would expect. Perhaps in that regard, they're not so different from us, eh? I suppose. Well, if I believe I have your permission to go, then... Are you certain I cannot come with you? No! And the Empress stops. Her eyes narrow just slightly, but it's less in the menacing way and the more in the really way. As Mona just briefly flounders. She normally has a more composed face, but it just flounders a little here.
I mean, I'm thankful you got me this, but I'm a little self-conscious talking to him in front of you. Personally. The Empress is going to try an insight check, which is... What's that? And as Mona sort of flounders around a bit, the Empress is watching her for a moment, and then her ears perk, and she seems to get a look like she reaches a realization. It's not the one that she should reach, though, as she goes, Oh, I see. You wish to speak to him privately, then? Yeah, very, very privately. I don't want anyone else to overhear us. Of course, I understand. My daughter should be free to go where she wishes and have whatever private correspondence she likes. It would be an honor if you successfully summoned him for a chat. Yeah, it would, yeah. I'll do my best not to intrude then. Tell me how it goes, will you? Of course, thank you, Mother. And Mona bows. Mona, darling, dear, you don't need to keep doing that. At least not when we're not in public. Sorry, Mother. Good luck. And she pats her on the shoulder and heads back down the hall, now humming a quiet, ominous tune. Mona watches her go and looks a little confused, so I'm going to roll her an insight to see if she understands. What? I'm not summoning him for that! The Empress just smiles wider as she walks off. It's just a talk! It's professional! Where did you even get the... You can say it. We'll call it professional. Whatever you want, dear. But it is! He's not even my type! I'm sure he's not. And she's gone. Mona, meanwhile, looks absolutely fucking flabbergasted. And there is a brief thought in her head, which of course translates to the audience. How in the world is it not obvious to her I don't like boys? I don't understand. That's not... Okay, you know what? No. This is... If she wants to believe that, sure. That's fine. As soon as I get out of this stupid program, it's not gonna matter. It's gonna be fine. It's going to be fine. And she just sort of recomposes herself and stomps off. The time passes. The moon doesn't leave the sky in the slightest. And while Mona does look back to the silhouette of the castle disappearing, it's a massive thing, so it's easy to see for a great distance, but as she heads further and further away, it does shrink into the distance, and eventually blend in. The only thing that possibly remains visible from the city, aside from its lights, is the crystal on the roof. And she thinks back to when she had foolishly fought her sister. If she'd listened to her sooner and let her go along with her plan, maybe she would have been able to get that wish from the wishing star, and she wouldn't have to do this. But if it's like Temperance said, then maybe the wishing star wouldn't have helped at all. In which case, whatever happened, she's out. It's just a matter that Mona... Well, she turns back towards the road and continues riding off on her custom motorcycle. Everybody loves a good anime motorcycle. All that sticks out of her helmet are her ears. As she rides along, she heads further and further away from this big city, following the river, until she reaches that crossroad. It's a bridge,
It's the kind of bridge that would lift and lower for something like steamboats and ferries to pass under, and can be driven over by cars, bikes, and others when it's not lifted. This is the closest she can get to a crossroad that she can remember. So, Mona takes a deep breath and gets to work trying to set up. Even uses the fake paintbrush. And I'm going to roll a few more perception checks. So that's going to be 10, 14, 2, 10. As she's drawing along, and while the anime style makes this look like a more complicated and intimidating circle, in her mind's eye, it's the simplest thing. It really is just, for all intents and purposes, just meant to be like a cartoon pentagram. But as she's drawing, her ears perk up and her expression takes a moment of, unfortunate shock as she hears a vehicle starting to pull up. Oh no, not this. Not now. And she turns, and the headlights illuminate her as the car comes to a stop. The door opens, and she pauses. What? Father? And there, out of the driver's side door, at least for a Japanese road, is her father, who appears to be at least dressed for a night drive, with a flashlight and glasses and his curly beard. While out of the other two doors appear two more of her siblings, and she immediately sags. No, not this. Mona! There you are! We've been looking all over for you! You haven't come back in several days! We were worried! And as they hurry forward, she aims the paintbrush toward them. Don't! Not another step. But... And then one of them looks down.
Oh, are you drawing something? Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, we were just worried to see if you were okay, that's all. We didn't know you got into painting.
And of course, he looks down, and we're just gonna roll an Arcana check real quick. Unfortunately, he does get what that is. Now, listen, I know you've been conflicted on what to do about the city. I know. But he tries to take a few steps forward, and she maintains the aim of the paintbrush. I said stop! Well, I can't just let you do this. If you try to summon someone like him, who knows what's going to happen to you? I know exactly what is going to happen to me, Father. I get it. You think I wouldn't be out here in the middle of nowhere doing this if I didn't know what I was doing? Well, no, but why? Why? You're not going to get it if I explain why. I've tried explaining before, and you've just fallen back on the same thing you've said the past dozen times. Oh, you don't have to. Oh, we'll still love you. Oh, we know you can save the city. I don't want to. And the two younger siblings flinch at that, as does he. I don't want to save this city. It's not mine to save. It's not even mine. I want to find Mina. Honey, Mina's your imaginary. She's not imaginary! And the wind howls around them in response.
She is real! And you used to know that! But ever since she was removed, ever since she was set free... Mona. Don't Mona me! If it were Mina in my shoes, you'd be encouraging this! No matter how stupid it sounds. You did encourage this when she gave you that stupid plan about the wishing star.
And I'm going to roll him a wisdom save against the program. 16. One more.
Mona.
And one of the younger siblings tries to step up.
I know you're lonely. And I really like my imaginary friends, but I don't think...
And her father speaks up. Well, if I spoke to her before, tell me what I said then. You told her that even though her plan was to leave this city and this world behind, you would still support her about it. Because even if you weren't really her father, even if she missed her father somewhere else, you were still made to be her father, and you were still going to be what a father should have been. Because you said a father should support their kids no matter what. And he looks down thoughtfully at that.
Papa, I don't remember you saying that. I mean, I remember the supportive part, but I don't remember you talking to...
But they look up and he looks deeply in thought. And then she ran off to the castle rooftop. I was stupid and I distracted her, and then she got out. But she got out without the stupid star. So what are you drawing one for? Well, not for the wishing star. That much I can tell you. Yes, I get that. Why not just try what she would have tried then? Because I've tried. And it failed. Whoever or whatever the wishing star is, it didn't listen to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be here.
Mona.
Don't Mona me! We were supposed to go together. That's what she said. But if she's not imaginary, and she was real like you said, and I was made to be her father, what does that make you? Her sister. Yeah, and all of her other sisters were fine. Who's to say she really left? What if she just... I didn't do anything to her. I know you didn't. You told me. I didn't. She left because somebody else got into this program, talked to whatever's in charge, and let her out. Program? Look, confusing lingo and terms aside, can't you just talk to whatever let her out to let you out? No. I wish I could. I'd love that. I'd love if it was as easy as just telling the program, hey, I want out. Let me out. But it wouldn't. I'm not like her, Father. I'm like you. I'm part of this world, and I'm part of this program, and I don't think I can follow her where she went. But if I can talk to him, maybe maybe he would help, but it would still cost you too much. I think it cost me just enough, thank you. Well, it's too much for me. Look, if you want to try and figure out something about this Mina, then we can figure it out at home. Just put away the paint, put away the brush, and just come back with us. It's gonna get cold. I'm fine where I am, thanks. And she's gonna turn around and is going to quickly try and finish up the circle. Mona, please! And he's going to step forward as she's going to turn around, blood fresh on the paintbrush, and is going to fire off a warning shot. Ray of Frost. So this is verbal and somatic components. It's a ranged attack hit, so it's 1d20 plus 7. As she turns the paintbrush, and of course calls out, and it's going to be a 1d20 plus 7. She's of course intentionally missing, but an 18 will at least get the point across as she narrowly misses his ears and blasts the tree, frosting it over and withering some of the greenery. If you take another step, I won't miss. Mona. Just let me try. Please. I have to believe that there's some way I can see her again. That we can go and be sisters, like she said. Can't you at least let me try? But I'm gonna roll her persuasion. Her persuasion is a +4. She rolls a 7 + 4 for 11, which isn't great, but his save against it was only a 6. So he stands there for a moment. And I'm gonna roll another perception check for the program. Oh, how unfortunate. One more stealth check? Yeah, no, I assume her raising her voice. That's gonna mean wisdom saves from the both of them. '15 would have met it, so she beats it. And a 19 on his end beats it. There's a moment where the wind howls, and yet comes to a quiet standstill. Both younger siblings are looking on in fear and apprehension, and there's a strange stillness to the air. Mona realizes what's going on, as does her father. Shit! And she quickly turns to finish the circle. I'm gonna roll her dexterity to see how quick she is. So your dexterity is a +2. Sleight of hand is also +2, so it's just a +2 all around. Plus proficiency with the paintbrush, which is 3, so +5. That's not great, Mona. That's not swell. Let's roll for the program. As Hayes realizes, meets it. Oh, buddy. As she tries to turn, there's a brief stillness to the air. And that stillness is disrupted by a harsh glitch to herself, which physically distorts her style between the anime style and a rubber hose earlier style, which has the much older color and then also flickers to a black and white variant. Mona Mouse, that will be enough. There is no use of infernal magic on your program. I would suggest that you put away the paint, put away the brush, and go home with your father. She, of course, resists that because the programming is not very compelling. And she manages to finish up more of the circle, but she's going to need one more turn to do so, as her father looks up at the sound, and she doesn't quite realize that he can actually catch it, because the younger siblings are just frozen in place. He is not. So she's going to need to roll one more. 1d20 plus 5. Oh, buddy, that's a nat 1. And Hayes is going to roll. I would laugh at the two numbers if this were any other situation. As she's drawing the sigils along, she gets to the very last two along the edges of this pentagram, and then freezes as the glitch finally stops her, mid-frame. Her pupils shrink, and as she looks up, there's the familiar H-shaped emblem. I suggested that you put away the paint and go home. It is not in your design to turn to fiendish magic. It is in your design to turn things around and save the town as you want it. Is it not?
No, it's not.
Fascinating. Did I not fully reset you when I remade the simulation? How unfortunate. I'll have to see about fixing my mistake. And her father is now going to roll a dexterity check. 17 beats it, however, as he darts forward, takes the fake paintbrush out of her hands, and against his better judgment, finishes the summoning circle. The program fails to hold him, as Mona's eyes look up in shock while the rest of her body is frozen. You were sent the command to retrieve your daughter and return home. What is the meaning of this? The meaning is I want to help my daughter find whoever she's talking about. Whether you want her to or not. Who she is talking about no longer exists within the parameters of your simulation. Mina Mouse, as Mona has stated, has been removed, courtesy of the all-clear signal given by the security team. Your directive is to retrieve your daughter and return home. Her task is a futile one, and she should realize this post-haste. So she did leave. Mona, what are the words?
Words?
For what you're doing. What are the words? And she needs to make a wisdom save against the static to be able to tell him. What's your wisdom save exactly? +3. It's not great, but not bad, even though you're proficient. And that's a 10. I can't think of them. I think it's in one of my books. I don't know. And he's gonna hurry to reach through her things, rifle through her hammer space to try and get one of those books out. Of all the times to fumble, now is not the time! However, the wisdom save will be made with disadvantage for the sake of the bit, so... 19? Okay. So, he resists the programming as he rifles through her hammer space. And he pulls out a series of paints. He looks at that for a moment, tosses that aside, and then continues rifling through again. The program, of course, tries to restrain him, but he manages to find the book and quickly pulls it up. And without the cover concealed, well, admittedly, it is another cartoonish pentagram, but he still starts flipping through it. And we're going to roll him investigation to see if he gets it on the first try. 13? Yeah, no, actually, that'll do it. He goes to show it to her, just briefly. Is this the right page? She can't nod, physically, but her eye but she makes her pupils nod. And he begins to speak in Infernal. I'm only going to make one more wisdom save. For the both of them. Mona, on a dirty 20, is successfully able to move. And a 17 for the father means he's not restrained either. Meaning, as the program tries to set everything back to what it was, they do not adapt to the parameters that the program sets. Meaning the father actually successfully completes the summoning. And seals the deal by giving himself a paper cut. The summoning circle roars to life, erupting into a drawn circle of flame and raw, fiendish magic. The environment around the area darkens, and the red and gold tones to the environment grow significantly brighter. Both younger children cower in fear, following their programming, while the father flinches, and Mona just looks up in shock. Briefly, we go elsewhere. Briefly, we go to the treehouse. To Bell, who is, in his defense, minding his fucking business in this moment. He is just trying to get some rest. Trying and not exactly succeeding. But then he hears it. That odd infernal chanting calling him by name. Or at least by his other names. He sits up and turns to the nearby radio, where it seems to be coming from. It's, in reality, not coming from that, but for the sake of the summoning, that's where it originates. He approaches it, and through the summoning circle, Bell's rubber hose form springs into being. In a thick, curling cloud of red and gold smoke over a black smog which lays over the ground. Bell's form in this summoning towers over the others, floating above them all on top of his hellish pitchfork. That trident just balancing ever so delicately for him as he looks down. The program glitches in this and freezes up altogether, while those two are the only ones that remain moving. Why was the mix on? That's unfortunate. I hope you can ignore the fact that I was echoing for a minute. I was hoping the mix wouldn't be on when I switched to that. Oops. Basically, Bell was summoned through the radio into the simulation again. Not exactly the place he wants to be once he realizes it as he looks around. But his position towering over the others stands out as an anomaly against the 80s Sailor Moon style of the environment around him. His golden eyes gleam in the dark, red irises looking down to a very familiar face and a not so familiar one. Mona, darling, it's so good to see you. I was wondering when you would call me up. I was hoping it wouldn't be here again, but I suppose you don't really have any options, do you? Not really, no. Though I guess it was my father that called you, she says as she looks over to him, and he just looks back and smiles a little tiredly. I suppose so. Mr. Moon did have a habit of breaking through the simulation for Mina. It only makes sense he would do the same for you. No matter. Suppose we should make this quick. I really don't want to spend any more time here than is necessary. I would hate to be trapped here again. What is it you need? I need you to bring me back to Mona. To Mina. Yes, I know the program tends to mess with you a bit. You don't have to correct yourself. I know who you meant. I can't necessarily do that. You're part of the program. If I try to bring you out, it might just reset you. Then make it so that I'm not. Excuse me. And as the father and the younger siblings in the program look on, I want to follow Mina wherever she went. I know I can't do that in this state, but the wishing star won't help. She trusted you, I figured you could. If you could give me the power, or change it so that I could follow her, then I wouldn't want anything else. If you wanted to follow her where she went, you would have to yourself become a Toon kind. Then make me a Toon kind. His pupils dilate in interest, and he leans against his trident in a sort of feline, not quite interest. Make you a Toon. I mean, I don't remember the fullest capacity of my powers, but I suppose for the right price, I could do my best. Of course, having summoned me, you should know the price for trying to deal with me. I know what it costs. But the fact that it actually worked means that I actually have something to bargain with. Doesn't it? He reaches up and strokes his goatee. It does. You would bargain your soul and send it to me in exchange that you could follow Mina? Why? Because I want to. She said when she was planning to get out that she wanted to take me with her because she didn't think her dad would mind her bringing home another sister. I didn't realize it immediately because at first I did think some of it was crazy talk, but thinking it over and seeing her disappear and seeing every
everything she did here just lost in a moment. I realized I wanted it too. I want to stay her sister. I want to follow her over there to Einquell, as you called it. And I think if the wishing star couldn't do it, you'd probably have better luck. I appreciate the vote of confidence. But still, there is a consequence to such an agreement. You understand that, don't you? If you are to sell me your soul in exchange that you follow her and be her sister as you so dearly say you want, not only will you no longer be part of any of this program, but you won't return here or to Mina when you die. Your soul will be mine, eternally. I know. But as long as I get to spend even a little more time with her, I think that'll be enough. Please? Belle? She called you Belle, right? She did. Well, I suppose I haven't seen this before. A magical girl made by a computer making a bargain with me to become a real Toon. I suppose, in a way, you're making a different magical girl contract, aren't you? I'd argue and call it a real one. I know this brush isn't real. Hers is. The program would just take it away as soon as I did something wrong. And if you don't help me, that's just what it's gonna do. Oh, I see it. Don't worry. Are you certain this is what you want? I mean, you'll only have so much time with Mina, and then never again. Are you positive? That's what you're willing to sell your soul for? Absolutely. I'm tired of this. I never want to be constrained to something like this again. And I know you don't either. You were so eager to leave, I didn't understand why. And now I do. And if anyone tries to imprison either of us again, I'll see to it they don't make the same mistake twice. A willing servant. Gotta be fascinating. Very well, I suppose the terms are negotiable. He snaps his fingers and a fine golden parchment appears. Or at least it looks golden from the way it's glowing. Then floats down as he summons a little feathered pen. And just stretches his arm down to hand it to her. She takes it. If you're going to sign a magical girl contract, we may as well make it official. Sign your name there, or whatever name you want. I'm not picky. I mean, I changed my name when I died. And considering you magical girls normally come in groups, you can even come up with a name for who your future co-workers may be. Co-workers? Well, it's like I said, you normally come in groups. You're not going to do a lot of good work alone. Even Mina had your help, didn't she? I suppose she did. As she does that, he is going to reach into his hammer space.
is it she fumbles in an actually dramatic moment and you... Okay. At least he pulls out what he needs to. And he pulls out a deck of playing cards, which he just starts shuffling through. She's going to make another wisdom save with advantage as the program tries to break through. 18. And an 11 for him. As she looks over, he smiles and nods, but his image flickers. There's a chance for her, but not for him. He's content here. He's got a family, and if the program's just going to do the same thing, it might just make one of his other daughters into the hero that the show needs. She does add a little something to the little blank conditions area where she's allowed to sign. And Belle, as he's shuffling, goes down and peeks. By signing the... Just by signing the contract, I hereby agree. Alright, there's your name. In return, the programmed family that I had originally been given is to also live a happy and peaceful life in their program and is not to be tormented by the program in charge. All the townsfolk to be happy. Without us. Happy and safe. That's all. Oh, aren't you a sweetheart? And he just reaches over and ruffles her hair with his hand. She briefly glares at him for that, but finishes signing and hands him the quill, and he holds out the deck of cards to her. Pick a card. Any card. Whatever the card turns out to be, will be your fee. Oh. Well, I suppose. Cards couldn't hurt. And she reaches over and draws... the 9 of clubs. Alright, show me the card. And he does. Clubs. And that would suit you. You are a down type. Alright. Clubs, trefoils, and clovers it is. May fortune smile upon you most of all. And he gives a flamboyant and dramatic bow as he draws the contract back to his person, takes back the card, and extends her a paw for a handshake. Though the program tries its best, the program itself remains frozen. And though she gives a last sympathetic look to her father and her younger siblings, they're not going to be her father or siblings anymore. By the terms of the contract, she is going to be Mina's sister, meaning the logistics will be adjusted so that way it makes sense. Although, another term she wrote in the contract is she doesn't necessarily want to compete with her sister for anything, so she won't be liable to inherit anything. She just wants to be her sister. No strings attached. She shakes the hand, and as the smoke travels and begins to envelop her, he floats back up with his trident. A deal's a deal. Now, your sister wasn't in the same style as you are now. Would you like to see that adjusted? I'm wondering how you would look as a rubber hose. Oh.
Yeah. Do whatever.
All right. Hold still. He cocks the trident like a shotgun, aims it toward her, and fires. And it's the last little sound effect that she gets. As the blast hits her, and it all goes fiery and then white. Mona's appearance changes drastically, but not unrecognizably. Her fur retains the same green tone, though her face and other areas that would be designated as a skin or secondary fur tone, instead of going that lightish yellow tone, go an off-white color. Just the slightest difference from Mina's whitened face. Her limbs go from well-constructed, jointed, retain the beautiful pencil work, but return to the much older and rougher sketching of rubber hose fashion. It's a strange transformation. Some might call horrifying, but others would call beautiful. As shoes and dress attire and clothing all change, and the color of her envious green eyes turns, as she's struck a bargain with the devil, to a yellow color. She takes on a very lanky and tall and very pretty look of a rubber hose mouse. And while Belle disappears, likely to reappear in his original spot, she reappears in the middle of the vault ruins. In front of somebody picking a few scraps up. Do you have permission to be down here? The guard says as they shine a lantern in that direction. She shields her eyes a bit. Looks over her gloved hands a bit in her appearance before looking back. Yeah, I got lost. I'm sorry. I was trying to find my way back to the surface to town, but I was having a bit of trouble. Would you be able to... Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. Come on. And the guard leads her along. And of course, she lost the paint set that she had in her hammer space, and does feel something else added in there, and reaches in. And pulls up a small card. It reads, Meter Locator. Flip over to see current location. Card will disappear as soon as Mina is found. And she flips the card over. It looks like a little calling card, really, but it reads, EGAD Headquarters, Xerox Jungle, Central Nyquil. She internalizes that information and nods. And follows the guard up. Mona is now free of the simulation, and as per the conditions of her new contract, the show's premise slightly changes. And yes, one of the younger sisters in the family is dubbed the newest hero, and is given a much closer iteration to Sailor Moon. with a wand rather than a brush. Mona returns to the surface to look for her sister. Bell returns to EGAD headquarters, kind of blinks at himself a bit, and looks at the fresh new contract he has. Reads it over a little. Huh? Suppose that's her decision. He snaps it away and looks at his trident. He taps it a little bit, and he's not sure if it's gotten just a little more ornamental since last he's looked. It still looks like the devil's trident, the devil's pitchfork, but it does look a little more ornate. A little more gambling themed, as it has now taken on the symbol of a clover, or club, or trefoil, or whatever you called that symbol for cards. It goes by all three names. And has started taking on more of the casino theming, just along the shaft of it. Huh. Neat. He then looks over the contract and sees what Mona would have titled her proverbial girl gang, because in her head, yeah, it's a girl gang. It's not just... It'll be more clear later, but as he reads it over, he kind of balks at the name she gave to her future gang, in which she's called them the Daughters of the Devil. He blinks. Alright, I'm gonna have to negotiate with her on that one. I'm not entirely sure I'm gonna let that title fly. It's not bad. I don't know that's the one she wants. I'll worry about it later. And he just snaps the contract away, snaps his trident away, and has a significantly better time going to sleep for some reason. Huh. Not entirely sure what that's about. But that will conclude it. This FPS was to catch the NPC Mona up to speed and make way for Mona to make a reappearance later. As the party that went through the Codebreaker saga, which is the precursor to all of this, skipped over a lot of NPC interactions because not all of them got trapped in the TV, they didn't really get the chance to meet Mona or see a lot of Mina's previous planning before anything went out. So this was a way of catching up on that, because it would have been happening in tandem to what they were doing. While Mona's agreement with the devil would have been made after Mina had left and after the rest of the party had long returned to EGAD. Anyway, I do hope my voice wasn't too hoarse to understand. I apologize for Voicemod's slips here and there. I hope you all enjoyed listening. And I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Take care of your throats and your voices. And I hope you can handle the heat and that it gets cooler for you later. I've been Carmichael, also known as Mikey, here with Bad Moon Rising. Have a good night. Also, let it be known, this is the first game where the fucking rubber hose cuphead devil now has a magical girl. But, you know. Goodbye!